What does it really mean to raise your frequency, to raise your vibration, to expand your energy or consciousness? These are words used quite often by people like me or other people you might consider super woo or alternative or holistic or spiritual. And it's understandable to write these things off when you hear them because they're not super concrete in the way that our brains tend to take in concrete information. Certainly not things you learn in school, not in this context. And you may not have any context for it. These words, you may apply them to constructs of information that you have regarding other things, physics, another understanding of consciousness. So it's important to get clear. It's important to get clear. One of the reasons that these words tend to stay in the abstraction and healers or spiritual teachers don't often get so clear is because at the root, it's experience-based. It's experience-based. A lot of these ideas aren't ideas, they're experiences. And so they're really not meant to be put into words, but we do the best we can because it's how we communicate. So I will do my best to use some words that may invite you into an experience or a place that already resonates within yourself as something you can begin to understand or glimpse, and then you may go and practice and sit in meditation and experience it more fully for yourself. That's the idea. That's the goal, because the words are only a transitional place. It's not meant to stay contained in language so you can just go around and talk about it and think about it and know it as an idea. That's just a purgatory. That's a place it stays until it gets integrated. And if it only stays there, if these messages that are being unfolded only stay in thinking and in intellect, they will be of very little use to you in terms of actually changing your life, actually healing, actually finding peace. So, how can I then use words to invite you to experience what this may mean? So when I use the word frequency, or let's say raising our frequency, there's other words we can use that may feel more concrete. Words like emotion and belief. So if we're stuck in, let's call it a more toxic emotion, let's call it shame or deep sadness or the construct of depression, if you abide by those kinds of diagnostic labels. Now find a place within yourself that has likely experienced that at one time or another. Or if you haven't found yourself depressed or haven't identified with that label, find a time when you've been very anxious, when your nervous system has been very activated. Do you notice how the world you are perceiving actually changes? It becomes narrow. You become clumsy. Maybe your body starts to shake. Maybe you're not as clear in communication when you're suffering under the weight of those emotions. What is often associated with those emotions is beliefs that show up about yourself, others in the world in that moment. So the world may appear to be a very dark and scary place. Have you ever been walking let's say late at night, and maybe you're feeling some fear. And so every person you see looks kind of scary. It's like that Doors song, everyone's strange when you're a stranger. People are strange, right? It's really speaking to that perception that when there is a negative emotion energy present and an associated belief about the world, everyone fits into that view. Everyone you see starts to look kind of scary or precarious or dangerous. Another way of saying that is that your energy is pretty low in the sense that it is enmeshed or under the weight of or submerged in, that's a better word for it, like submerged in a pool of more negative emotion energy, because emotion is energy and you can feel it in your body. You can feel the sensation of it rather than having to get too specific as to what energy is, for example, because it's a non-material thing. So it's just, but you can feel it, you can sense it. You can sense energy in your body. In some sense, in one sense, it's the life force that fuels all of this. Beyond the physical, there is a non-physical that is giving life to everything you experience. So think about the source material of what you are vibrating lower, lower states of, or ever felt shame and felt it just take over your whole body and your body starts to change. Maybe start to look down at the floor, your shoulders hunched over. You're not really open-hearted, up and proud, right? So frequency is a way of wrapping all of that up into a word. Wrapping all of that up into a word because the beliefs, the emotions, how you are perceiving your reality can get boiled down to that source material of energy or frequency or vibration. And if it's higher, as it goes higher, it's like turning up the brightness on your computer screen. Everything starts to look brighter. The trees, the birds sound nice and inviting rather than menacing and irritating, right? People look friendly. You want to smile at them, greet them. So what changed? Did all of the sudden all the birds just become nicer birds? No. The world is created based on the frequency within you. So as your screen brightens, so to speak, everything takes on that hue. And we could get into a discussion of, well, are you really creating your world, or is there an objective world? It kind of doesn't really matter because you'll never be able to see an objective world if there is one. We're all based in our own subjectivity. So for all intents and purposes, your world, your reality is based on your subjective experience, your subjective knowing. And healing is too, because you can only really know based on your subjective experience. Again, like I said, if it's only stuck in the intellect, just like what you can know objectively, it's not going to penetrate. It's not going to penetrate into that source material of what you are, your perception, a deeper knowing and a deeper faith, even beyond perception, beyond what you can see, that you are being led by a force greater than you, a force greater than you that you are actually a part of, that your energetic field is a part of a greater field. And so raising your frequency is really about being able to hold that higher, brighter state of field. and not just perceive the environment, the world around you, as in that higher state, but to actually be it, to be that beacon of light and frequency, so that it's contagious and invites others to see it too. Because the world, if it's all just a subjective realities and fields bumping up against one another, then the world is actually created by the collective field of all of us, not just humans, but other things, other species. Trees, plants, they're doing a great job of holding a high frequency. They all have a high frequency. Humans, not so much. Humans have like one of the lowest frequencies, causing a lot of death and destruction, a lot of pain. And it's, it's ego. It's not personal, but it's collective ego of humanity. We're needing some help right now, and we're going through a pretty transformational time. So we can do our part by raising our frequency, by being that beacon of light, by literally brightening and glowing brighter. So we invite others in to our frequency. We can invite them to transmute their darkness, their negative emotion energy, to come up, to meet us. And it's important that we do our best not to sink down, to meet others where they are. There's a lot of, as a clinician, we talk a lot about meeting people where they're at. And some clinicians really do believe that it's important to dwell in the negative emotion energy with clients or patients. No, that's not how healing works. Healing works by us holding the higher vibration and inviting others who are suffering into our light. It's not about imposing or toxic positivity, whatever people consider that to mean. That's really just a kind of defensiveness against a higher vibration that people don't like. Hold your vibration in the face of darkness and invite others in when they're ready. And if they're not ready, it's okay. Again, you don't need to force it on anybody. I'm sure maybe in that case of toxic positivity, certainly there are people who are so desperate for others to light up because they're feeling triggered. Because they're feeling triggered by others' lower frequencies. So maybe someone you have a friend who comes into a party and the environment is pretty chill. Everyone's just hanging out, and they come in and they're really rah, 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 and they're trying to get everyone amped up. Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. They're feeling tension. They're feeling triggered that the environment they've walked into is not vibrating at where they're at. And that's all different because that's based on that's based on a little resistance on that newcomer's part, and they're trying to impose their will. To hold the frequency doesn't mean going around imposing your will on people and trying to get them to see the light. It's not about convincing. It's just about holding it, being it inside, and doing your best not to judge others who aren't there, because they need your support. They need your miracle, and your miracle is your light. And it's actually just using your mind to see the world, to dream the world that you want to live in. Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. Be it. It's not about doing it. You can take action for sure, but be it inside. Gandhi also said, my life is my message. My life is my message. So just be it. You don't always have to go around proselytizing it, saying it, trying to convince people to see it your way. Just be the light, be the beacon that attracts moths to the flame, that attracts other people in to your light, because it's contagious, and because they all have a light within them too. So it's not about getting people to just rely on your light. It's about sparking them sparking them till we have a sea, a world of light. And then we all begin to glow collectively, raising the collective frequency. And we could go a bit deeper into the woo and talk about how, in some way, that actually changes the dimensional plane that we live on, changes the nature of reality, because the nature of reality is kind of all this source energy, this non-material source, this light of consciousness. So if we're raising it and others are raising it, we are changing the nature of our reality, which has been more limited, which is limited by our level of consciousness, by what we are able to perceive. And that is really dictated by the beliefs we're holding and the emotions that we're succumbing to. Because that's really what we might call the construct of the mind. You know, what we see, what we experience is all taken in by the mind. And you're not your mind in totality, but the mind is a very important part of your experience because it's how you perceive everything. So we need to heal the mind and expand it. Use the mind to see the light and not get so caught up in the darkness. And it's very addictive. You wake up, you read the news right away. What do you think it's doing to your frequency? Plummeting it, right? And so you're getting off on an interesting foot to each day. You know, the deeper this practice goes is actually being able to see that there is a more expansive truth beyond the mind, and you can sink into that. You can feel that your energetic field consciousness expands even beyond just sort of the smaller mind perception of and sense perception. This may get a little confusing, but you know, when you close your eyes and you can sit in meditation, you can feel that your energy actually extends beyond the physical body. You can just start to sense and feel into the environment, the space you're in. You can take up more space. And you actually have more influence than you think. It's why someone can walk into the room you're in and immediately sense, ooh, I don't know if this feels good, or just immediately brighten. You're not touching them. You may be several feet away, but your energy, your field is bigger than just your physical body. So mind bigger than mind, that can get a little confusing. But just know that the source of what you are, this energetic field of consciousness that is bigger than the physical body you're contained in, and bigger than the thinking mind. It's bigger than what you think, more about what you can feel into. Practice raising that. That's really what it means to just brighten. And, you know, pretty simply, it's positive emotions. Now, you don't have to force, I guess that's where the toxic positivity thing comes. You don't have to put a smile on your face and be a clown and just you don't have to force happiness. But there's always a way to come into a deeper level of peace. There's always a way to come into a deeper level of peace than where you're at, because firstly, you can just see that even if there are negative emotions present, they aren't you. They aren't the totality of you. There's always a layer beyond that, behind it. There's a layer behind it. So if you're finding yourself wrapped up in grief or shame, and that's dictating your whole world and your frequency is very caught by that, there's a way to sort of release the net, and you can allow the emotion to still be a wave in your ocean, but you suddenly release yourself and you become more expansive again. You open up, you recognize that you're bigger than just that emotion. And so immediately there, you're doing great. Maybe you didn't jump to being ecstatically joyful, but you at least released complete identification with shame, or whatever the emotion is. So great job. And sometimes that's all we can do in the moment, and that's great. So, do what you can, do what you can for you and the world. And it makes an enormous difference. In fact, it's the only thing that does. That is the only thing that will heal the world because it is of the world. Now, action is important too. We take action, but that is always the first action because there are plenty of people who do honorable things and what they consider to be morally good things and commit their lives to helping others in the way that they see fit. But if their frequency is low, if they're constantly operating from a place of stress and negative emotion, even if it's seems very reasonable, they're carrying negative emotion because they're suffering at the weight of all the horrible things that happen in the world, and they're trying to combat it, and they're trying to fight and resist, be political. It's great, but you see that action will never be enough because it's coming from a lower frequency, and that's the most important thing we can give is to brighten, is to release anger, to release negativity, even in the face of all the destructive things that we see. That's why it's so important. That's why I talk about it so much. The most important thing you can do is raise your frequency. Because from a higher frequency, you will naturally take aligned action. You will naturally do what is of highest good and highest value to others from that place. You will be your most compassionate and loving self. And oftentimes that is worth more than any money, any political action, any argument you think you're going to get into to convince someone to see it your way. Expanding your frequency is not about rightness or wrongness. It's not about getting everyone to see it your way. That's just another positionality. That's just another opinion. No, it's just about being the light beyond what you think is right, beyond your opinion. It's just about being in the frequencies of love and gratitude and grace and peace. Because if you can conceive of a world where everyone is vibrating at that frequency, does it really matter what people think about each other? Does it really matter, what people think the right way to have a society is? If we're operating at a higher frequency, it will just be better. It will just be better. We'll just be more loving. We'll be more caring. Because that's what happens at that higher frequency. It just becomes a deeper knowing. You don't have to think your way into love or what's the right thing to do or how do I not offend this person or how do I use the politically correct term. I mean, it's helpful, it's helpful to watch your words because the words have energy, but the words are only impactful because of their energy. So if it comes from a place of love, then whatever the word is, it's less important. Not saying it's not important at all, but it's less important than the frequency it comes from. Any spiritual book you read, are you rigorously taking notes, attempting to integrate it into your mind, or are you allowing the frequency of the words to penetrate your being? Because that's really what any worthy teacher is attempting to convey, is that it's just about experiencing it, taking it into your presence, allowing the state of your presence to amplify. So just practice checking in, asking yourself, where's my frequency right now? Can it go a little higher? Not by force, not by thinking, though if there are negative thoughts, just recognize that. And if you feel like changing your thoughts, then change your thoughts because you can. You can think more positive thoughts. But you don't have to. You don't have to, if that feels like too much effort, just take a step back. Take a step back from whatever you're wrapped up in, whatever drama or story or emotion. And just notice, oh, maybe my frequency can actually go higher just by being, just by sinking into my awareness that I am more expansive than the current unfolding drama. It's a great place to start. And then from there, in meditation or in experiences, your frequency can jump because you just have really creative or inspired moments, or with people you love, or new people. If you're open to it, if you start to walk around and see all encounters, all moments as opportunities for beautiful creation, then you're just opening up to moments that will spark you. If you're already limited in a place where the world is scary and dark and people are dangerous, and you're not necessarily leaving yourself open for higher frequency moments, right? So it's just a practice tapping into it, getting a sense of what it feels like, being in meditation and just feeling your whole body lit up and literally vibrating. And just holding that as much as you can, and letting the dreams and the fantasies and the thinking, even I know I speak very dismissively about thinking, but thinking can be invited into the playground too. If you're holding a frequency, then the thinking can be positive too, and that's great. Just set it down a path and let it go. Let it see a vision for your life. Let it see a vision for your evening, for the next day. And let it just be bright and fun and playful. Your mind is so, so powerful. You're creating all this. You're creating all this with your mind. So think about all the good stuff you can create. Ultimately, it is about coming back to presence, and it's not about living in the future or the past. But you can be playful. If your frequency is high, you can have beautiful visions, and they will wire pathways in the brain to manifest, to create the life that you want, to help you start walking into that higher frequency and leaving behind the things that don't resonate. Negative emotion energies, the people, the places, the things that are, that are just vibrating that lower energy. It's a nice phrase because it's not about judgment. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm not saying they're bad places or bad things. They're just carrying a lower energetic state, and that's okay. But if you want to choose something different for yourself and for the world that you live in, then take ownership of your frequency, of your energy, and just practice amplifying it in every moment. Practice coming into awareness whenever you can. Take a breath. Tune in with the natural world if you can. Listen to the trees and the birds because they are naturally carrying a more peaceful, higher frequency. They are naturally more aligned with the rhythm and flow of universal intelligence. They don't have an ego mind causing lots of havoc and destruction and getting in the way. So tune into those things. That's why people like to fill their house with plants, not just because they look cool, not just because it creates better oxygen, airflow, or whatever, but because they have a higher frequency. A higher frequency. So let's practice together. Let's practice together. And my intention for these videos, for my podcast, for whatever I do, is just to hold a higher frequency for you, for me, for the world. So may this video be an invitation, a gift, and a frequency for you to tune into and expand. Take care.